Greetings from ABC Acres. I'm Grant Shadden, and I'm here in our under development nursery area to talk about comfrey and how we can make a comfrey tea, a fermented tea out of the leaves and stems of the plant to be able to distribute the high nutrient load of this amazing plant throughout the landscape. Now, we could use it in our vegetable gardens, around our fruit trees, or even in our pastures to increase the mineral content of whatever it is we're wanting to give a boost to, and also to infuse it with some fertility into the soil. Now, a fermented comfrey tea is different than an actively aerated compost tea. We're simply getting and extracting to extend the mineral content of the comfrey, as opposed to an aerated compost tea where you're running bubbles of air through your tea to increase the microbiology populations, the good bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, things like that you want to distribute and inoculate your soil with. So that's a key difference between this kind of fermented mineral fertilizer and a actively aerated compost tea. So that being said, I've got my handy dandy Japanese hand sickle here, and I can come in and just start harvesting some of this comfrey here, and in very short order with this knife have plenty of biomass to make my tea with. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole process for the sake of time, but what we do is just start tearing apart these plants and throwing them in our container. Now, we have an old trash can here, but the smaller the surface area, the more you break down these plants, the quicker they will break down. So it really just depends on how big of a hurry you're in, but you can just kind of do a rough breakdown of the plant here, and this will break down quickly, even if you were just mulching it. So once again, this depends on your context. If you want to just simply chop this and drop it around plants as a mulch, you can certainly do that and skip the step here of making it a fermented tea. However, if you want to extend the minerals out further, getting it into a liquid form is going to be very effective for you. So it depends on the amount you have available, the area you're wanting to treat with this great natural homegrown fertilizer, and really your time. Because once we get this broken down and get it covered with water, it's going to be sitting for at least 3 weeks. And if you can wait more like 6 weeks, you'll get a stronger tea as well. So that steep time is going to depend on how strong of a tea you want. So if we get a good strong tea, we can dilute it down a little further to extend it out some. But if we want to accelerate the process, well, then we're not going to have the tea go as far. So it depends on your goals and whether the amount of comfrey or the time is the limiting factor for you. So something to be aware of. But okay, for our purposes, we've got enough here, and we can just begin. Now, try and show you here a little bit, but you can see I could certainly break this down more, and I typically would, but I'm trying to do a couple things at once here, talking to you and doing this, so I'm not going to take as much time. But now that I've got this, I'm simply going to fill this up, just covering the level of the vegetation in there, all my comfrey biomass, with water in order to let it start to ferment and bubble. And I've got this lid here because this does start to smell, especially at the first week or so of the fermentation breakdown process. So keep that in mind. You can just lightly cover it to keep that smell down a little bit. You may have to come in and add a little bit more water as well, just as it's breaking down, not too much, but just letting that process happen, letting those minerals break down. This will break down relatively quickly in the water. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill that up, and then we'll be able to let it sit and add it out into our landscape for our own homegrown fertilization, rich not only with some nitrogen, but also a lot of these trace minerals that are down in the subsoil that these deep taproots go after, they mine it, they bring it up, and then we can distribute it out for the benefit of plants that we're wanting to grow for production purposes here at ABC Acres. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and fill this up with water just above the biomass, like I said before, so that it can start its fermentation process. And once it's done, you'll have a sludge down at the bottom, and you can simply just pour it off. If you're using, say, like a pump sprayer to fertilize with, you could use a cheesecloth straining through it to make sure you're not clogging up the line of your pump sprayer. But if you're just using a bucket or an old watering can, then you probably don't have to be quite so particular about straining out those solids. And those solids would be great, whatever sludge is left over, as a mulch around a fruit tree or a berry bush or in your veggie garden as well. Well, if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.